Hello everyone, and welcome back to part 2 of my 100 best movies of the decade list. This time I'll be covering numbers 50 to 1, so with that being said, let's get right into it. How do you improve upon one of the best family movies of recent years? You make Paddington 2, a colourful, joyous blast of a movie that knows how to pull at the heartstrings without feeling super manipulative. Why just spill your beans? Because this is a great movie, that's why. Sometimes, if a movie doesn't give me all the answers, it can feel a bit like an empty experience by the end. However, that is Burning's primary intention right from the word go. So by the end of it, you're just as clueless as you were at the start. And I kind of love the movie for just going ahead and doing that without hesitation. Moonlight is one of those rare movies where you can tell it was made from the heart. Barry Jenkins crafted a modern classic with this movie, and the fact that it won Best Picture shows. A gimmick that never once feels like a gimmick, and instead feels like an important piece of history. By altering World War I footage, you are able to see the Great War in an entirely new light, bringing a more human side to something so tragic. This is essential viewing that I think everyone should see at least once in their life. Amour is a beautiful yet devastating movie that shows the tragedy of growing old and how everything you knew can be flipped upside down in an instant because of it. I'm just gonna say it, this is probably the funniest movie of the entire decade. I have nothing else to say, just go and watch it, it's hilarious. One of the most unnerving movies you will ever see, from Mika Levy's haunting score to just the general unsettling tone of the movie, everything about it is bloody damn effective. There are some shots from this movie that will be forever etched into my brain because of how creepy they are, and I wouldn't want it any other way. A fitting send-off for such a beloved character, Logan delivers on both the emotional side of things as well as the brutal violence we've all been waiting for. I'm so glad James Mangold got a second chance with this movie because it improves upon the Wolverine in almost every way. Right, so you might want to hear me out on this one. Tickled is a documentary about journalist David Farrier who decides to investigate the underground world of competitive tickling. Now I know this might sound like a weird premise for a documentary, but trust me, it's genuinely engaging right from the start, and the deeper David's investigation goes, the darker and more disturbing things get. It's easily one of the most interesting documentaries you will ever see, and you can thank me later. The fact that Jake Gyllenhaal didn't get a Best Actor nomination for his performance in Nightcrawler still pisses me off to this day. Just saying. That being said though, the movie is brilliant, it's really good. Alfonso Cuarón's Passion Project is a grand statement of a movie. I feel like this is one of those movies that gets better with time, as there is a lot of nuances to appreciate both on a personal level and from a filmmaking perspective. Sorkin's dialogue and Fincher's direction is a match made in heaven. A film about Facebook sounds boring at first glance, but with these two at the helm, it becomes way better than it has any right to be. The fact that this is the highest grossing anime of all time kind of says something. Your Name takes a pretty exhausted trope, that being the body swap scenario, and breathes new life into it with gorgeous animation and lovable characters. Good time, more like a great time, am I right, boys? Boys? I'll just see myself out. Internet-based horror thrillers such as Unfriended or Friend Request are without a doubt cliched messes. Searching, on the other hand, is a step above the rest as it actually uses its internet-based concept to tell its story and provide subtle hints as to where its intricately woven plot may end up. Damien Chazelle's love letter to the golden age of cinema is one that both updates and pays homage to classic musicals. The music is catchy as hell, and the way this movie is shot still impresses me the more times I watch it. Baby Driver is Edgar Wright working at full throttle, if you pardon the pun. The use of music in this movie is something I've rarely seen in any medium. From the way the character relies on it, to the effect it has on things such as editing, this movie is just a ton of fun, and the use of music amplifies that. Even though this horror movie is more entertaining than scary, what it does with genre cliches is something to marvel at. Everything in this movie just works, all of which leads to a final act unlike any other. Compared to Endgame, Infinity War is a much tighter package that delivers the same amount of spectacle, just in a more urgent manner. Also, the way in which this movie balances so many characters at once is seamless. One of the most anxiety-inducing movies ever, Danny Boyle and James Franco bring this remarkable true story to life in a way that only Danny Boyle really could. This one's just a really good movie, and you probably know that by now. I don't really have much else to say, just go and watch it. The performances and camera work are so realistic and neutral that this drama could easily be mistaken for a documentary. What this movie has to say about the UK's working class and job searching is absolutely spot on. This movie is so bleak, it might as well be called I, Daniel Bleak instead. Your Name is great and everything, but personally I think A Silent Voice is ever so slightly better. It takes a rather hard topic and makes it relatable and emotional in some incredibly creative ways, really utilising the medium of animation to its fullest potential. This movie did the simple job of putting the audience in the shoes of these helpless soldiers. By putting you directly in this situation amongst these many men and letting you experience it in your own eyes, you quickly grow a strong empathy for the many soldiers and the nightmare they went through. It is this very reason why I think Nolan created a masterpiece with this movie. This is without a doubt one of my favourite action movies ever. The fighting here is brutal and unforgiving, and it is brilliantly captured by Gareth Evans and co. Not a single shot in this movie feels wasted. How do you make a character-driven drama set entirely in a car interesting for the whole of its 1 hour and 25 minute runtime? Well, you cast Tom Hardy in the lead role, and have the writing done by Peaky Blinders creator Stephen Knight. An amazingly emotional movie that perfectly pulls off such a simple concept. Yeah, it's a bit pretentious, but it's also relentless in all the right ways, and I'm so glad Leonardo DiCaprio finally won an Oscar for this movie. This movie isn't just a fever dream, it's like watching a nightmare unfold before your very eyes. I shouldn't love this movie, but for some reason I think it's absolutely mesmerising. If you've seen my review for this movie, then you know how much I adore it. It's well written, has a fantastic lead performance in the centre of it all, and had me both laughing and crying on multiple occasions. Do yourself a favour and check this one out, as it's very underrated at the moment. This is a crime thriller that needs to be seen by a lot more people. I know most of you know how great this movie is, but for those of you that haven't seen it, just do yourself a favour and watch it. Denis Villeneuve yet again proving he is a master behind the camera. When David Fincher gets to direct a crime thriller, I feel like he's in his element. I love almost everything about this movie, from Rosamund Pike's amazing performance to Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross's score, which is simply mwah. Now, after you've seen this movie once, you may never want to watch it again. Now, that's not because it's bad, it's simply because of how impactful and unapologetically realistic it goes about handling its very touchy subject matter. It's a brilliant piece of filmmaking that you definitely have to be in the right mood to watch. Normally, I couldn't give a shit about Formula 1 racing, but Senna is maybe my one exception. As a documentary, it is so fascinating and surprisingly emotional when it needs to be. And the fact that they achieved this entirely through pre-existing interviews and footage, nothing new at all, is very impressive. Only Martin Scorsese can make a 3-hour-long movie and make it feel like 2 hours. This movie is so fast, funny, and in your face that it's just a blast to watch every single time. Less of a documentary and more of a non-narrative showcase of the world and how it's developed, with some of the most stunning cinematography you'll ever see in your entire life, and a very apt score to boot. Can Danny Boyle and Aaron Sorkin collaborate more often? This is a work of genius that handles this man's life in such a typically fascinating manner that only these two could really pull off. I think Martin McDonagh is one of those writer-directors who improves in every single way with each project he does. 3 Billboards is his third movie, and it is easily him at his most mature and polished. In Bruges felt like a more personal movie, Seven Psychopaths was more of a comedy-driven movie, and this movie sees his more dramatic side come out. It's nice to see a filmmaker evolve throughout their career, like Martin McDonagh has. I won't say much about this movie other than the fact that it's truly special and has the single best use of aspect ratios in any movie ever. If you were to go out of your way and see any movie on this list, please make it be this one. Roger fucking Deakins, Denis fucking Villeneuve, Ryan fucking Gosling. I mean, need I say much more? A cinematic immersive experience in almost every single way. Very few movies I think have the right to be called flawless. For me, Drive is one of those movies. From the way it effectively handles the romantic plot elements, to how it slowly builds tension over the course of the movie, towards some of the most satisfying violence in any movie you'll ever see. This movie, to me, is kind of perfect. The amount of praise this movie has gotten over the years may mean some people deem it as a bit overrated now, but to be honest, I still can't praise this movie enough. It's the movie that first sparked my interest in filmmaking, and rewatching it again recently confirms how impressive it is from both a storytelling and technical standpoint. This movie is Edgar Wright doing what Edgar Wright does best. It's a fast-paced movie that puts characters and inventive visuals at the forefront. There's nothing I don't love about this movie, and I'm so glad it exists in the first place. Traumatizing and unforgiving are words that best describe this worthy Best Picture winner. Everyone in this movie gives outstanding performances, the score is simple yet haunting, and the shots found in this movie are beautiful yet tragic as well. There's not much else that I can really say about 12 Years a Slave that hasn't already been said. It's that good. The Lego Movie is one of my favourite animated movies of all time. It's bright and colourful, the humour is spot on, and the CGI/stop motion effect is flawless. I could go on forever about this movie, but I'll save that for another day. This may just be my favourite Denis Villeneuve movie. Purely for one simple reason. The further the plot goes, the pieces of its puzzle start to subtly fall into place, leading to a revelation that is so effective that it left me uncomfortable for days afterwards that I can never forget it. Very rarely does a movie affect me in such a way, but Incendie was able to do so. An animated movie about a man shipwrecked on an island, and the movie has no dialogue at all. It sounds like it shouldn't work, but trust me when I say that this is one of the most simplistically beautiful movies you will ever see. This is one of those movies that is perfectly pulled off in every single aspect, yet you'll only need to watch it once to get its full effect. Definitely not one you'd want to stick on with a bunch of mates, but it's easily one that stays with you long after it's ended. I could be here for hours talking about how great Her is. It's a rom-com that never feels Hollywoodized or sappy in the slightest. It's a very genuine and carefully well-written movie with a very human feel to it that makes it so much more realistic despite how odd its premise may be. Everything about this movie just works, from J.K. Simmons' mesmerising performance as Fletcher to the jaw-dropping final scene that gives me goosebumps to this day. Whiplash is a modern classic in every single way. Damien Chazelle has yet to top this lightning in a bottle experience that feels just as urgent as it does important. So guys, that is it. That was my 100 best movies of the decade list. I hope you enjoyed it, and please let me know in the comments below what some of your favourite movies of the past decade have been. If you liked the video, then give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and to keep up to date with my goings on as well as updates on this channel, then why not follow me on Twitter as well. Apart from that, I shall see you all in the next video. Bye!